What's good, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the after show. We all been sitting here having a great discussion about power, as well as Michael K. Williams, RIP, on Lamont Tyson channel. If you haven't already, make sure you check him out. Subscribe to the brother. And so tonight, what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep that discussion going. And we got hold on, let me move this. My damn arm be hurting. Anyway, got my girl Moochella came to hang with one fella tonight. And Queen Nita the Diva in the building. What's good?
Hey.
Hey, what's up? We was waiting on Larry the Legend to come through. I don't know what's going on, if Larry's still coming. But you know, hopefully my boy Larry come on through, because I definitely wanted to hear a little bit more about what he had to say about Michael K. Williams and how he felt. So before we get into that, I'll say that to the end for when he come, and we could just say a little something before we get started. RIP to Michael K. And Moochie, you got anything you want to say before we get it going? Go ahead, Moochie. But we got Larry in the building. Better late than never.
What's up, y'all?
All right.
Some wine.
Gotta get that wine on. All right, Moochie, what you want to say about Michael K?
I already basically said what I he has a lot of credits to his work. It's not just The Wire. He was on When They See Us. That was the Netflix thing that talked about the Central Park 5. And the latest thing was Spike Lee, that documentary we was talking about, Jay, that was about 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was on something about people in prison not too long ago too.
Exactly. And when he did his life story, he spoke about his struggles with addiction.
Right. I actually was about to pull that up just to, highlight what you were saying. So yeah, on the Hollywood Reporter, he even in 2011 in an interview got real about his scars, struggles, and salvations, and said there's no words to say how fortunate I am. And he was found dead at the age of 54 today. And it comes to a shock to many people. I myself didn't really know he had a drug addiction still. Didn't know he had a heroin addiction ever. So it was definitely a shock to me that was the case. Nita, what you want to say about Michael K. Williams and his unfortunate passing at such a young age?
Yeah, I really need to check out that documentary or something, whatever you guys are talking about. I didn't hear anything about it. I did not know he had any struggles with drug addiction. I had already said that in the other one, but I just want to say that alcoholism, drug addiction does not erase anything else about your life. You are important, and just because you make a bad choice in life, it does not mean that you are nothing anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't, celebrate his addiction. We're not celebrating his addiction. We are celebrating his contribution to Hollywood. We're celebrating his acting career and what he has brought to, just what we love and adore about what he gives us, his talent.
Yeah, what you just said reminded me of something as well. When I was younger, I grew up in the 80s, early 80s and 90s. And so that Just Say No and all that stuff, like my mom and dad used to smoke cigarettes. I would break up their cigarettes and I would be all over them about cigarettes and drinking. And if I found out anybody used drugs, I would say they was a horrible person, this, that, and the other. And my mom said basically, because a person may use drugs doesn't mean that was their whole story, or that means they were a horrible person. It mean they had a problem, but that ain't the whole, you know, story. I was like a pretty much cut and dry back then.
Right.
You a drug user, you're a horrible person type thing. And so, not to say using drugs is good, but it's a complicated issue, you know. So, you know, all right, L Dog, you got the floor, man. How do you feel about this? What's up with your thoughts about this Michael K. Williams situation?
Yeah, I will say this. I'm not suggesting that because somebody was a drug addict or died from drugs that their performances, their artistic, you know, accomplishments are somehow less. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that I think that they should not be celebrated in the same way as someone who died from some other means, somebody who died from old age, somebody who died in a car accident, somebody who died from a heart attack. I don't think they should be celebrated in the same way because these people carry a lot of influence, and young people see this and they think, oh, I should use drugs when I'm trying to be an artist. So there's been that whole thing that's been propagated for God knows how long. People saying, oh, you should take these drugs to free your mind. You need to come outside of yourself and all this other stuff that people tell artists. Oh, you have to struggle before you could really be a great artist. All that stuff is just B to the S. And I just think that when we continue to propagate that sort of attitude and behavior, that we end up with a whole bunch of talented people that die. And we should not celebrate that. We should be celebrating the people that lived good lives and still did good work. I'm not saying that you can't watch their movies. And also, the other thing I hate is I hate this hypocrisy of when we say, and yes, Moochie, I guess this is going to be sort of directed towards you, but I hate this hypocrisy of saying that we have to separate the man from the work. No, we don't. We don't do that every day. Every time some white person comes out and calls a black person a nigger, we cancel their ass and we don't separate their work.
But is that right?
Look at Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is one of
That's totally different, though. That's apples and oranges.
No. I let you speak, and on Lamont even fucking went off on me tonight because I tried to keep talking when you interrupted me, and I'm gonna either speak and say what I want to say, or I'm just not gonna say anything. So I'm gonna let you guys decide what you want to do.
Just focus on the topic. We on this. We moving on to this. So finish saying what you.
So the thing, what I'm trying to say is that people do stuff all the time. You have Mel Gibson, for instance, who has said all kinds of racist stuff, anti-Semitic stuff. So should we say we're gonna separate him from his work and he's a bad guy, but we're gonna continue to love all of his great work that he did because he's done some great work. He's made some of the best movies in Hollywood history. But you know what you don't see anymore is many Mel Gibson movies because they don't separate the man from the work.
Is that right?
Do that.
I'm asking a question, devil's advocate. Is that the correct way to handle it, though?
I think if we're going to live in a society where people want to say that we're going to have standards that you cannot do this and continue to live and exist in a polite, civilized society, then yes, then we have to say you are attached to your work. It's just like you can't sit up there like the dude from Seinfeld who got up on stage and dropped 250 niggas on there because he was mad because somebody was heckling him. That dude got canceled because you don't get to separate the man from the work.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Is drug use more of a personal problem versus if you calling people names like Michael Richards or Mel Gibson? That's not a personal thing. That's an attack to a group in general. Whereas if you're using drugs, then that's an attack on yourself. And like, for example, you say separate the work. So allegedly, I never met Michael Jordan, but they say he's a bad dude or a jerk, but they don't separate his accomplishments on the court.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me answer by asking you this question. Is it fair if a woman, for instance, goes out there and she has a sex tape that's released? She has a tape of her giving her boyfriend or her brother or her boyfriend or her husband a blowjob or having sex on camera, and then all of a sudden her sponsors say, well, we can't have you out there. You're not a good representation for our company, so we're going to drop you. So is it okay? She was given those sponsorships because of her work as an actress or a singer. Should we then say, oh no, we're going to go ahead and separate the woman from the work, when we know that's not the reality of the way we live our life? We don't separate the woman or the man from the work. They are attached, because when you go to work, you are that man. And when you go to work, you are that woman. So people, you can't separate them. They are one. And so I think it's disingenuous to sit up there and say we need to go ahead and separate the man from the work when it's a black person, or when somebody overdoses on drugs. Like for me, I think when somebody commits suicide, I'm not mourning their death. You were given a gift and you decide to squander it. I'm not mourning your death. When you go out there and you overdose on drugs, I'm not mourning your death. I'm not happy to see you go, but I'm not mourning you and I'm not celebrating you.
Maybe let me throw this in, and I'm gonna get to Moochie. Maybe people are not necessarily saying if a person commits suicide, maybe they're mourning that they went through something so unfortunate in their life that they felt that was their only option to deal with it. Maybe, or person with drugs, maybe they're not celebrating that they use drugs, or saying, well, you use drugs. I don't agree with cancel culture either. I don't think that's the right way to go either, because everybody makes mistakes, and all the people that normally cause to cancel people, if we were able to check each person, they got faults and flaws as well. But because they're not famous or a public persona, they got the right to say all this stuff about people as if, they poop don't stink. And I don't think that's right either. And, people are people.
I agree.
Because your job is public doesn't mean you're a priest or should be held to a higher standard. And one last thing, you don't think about it this way. You say young people may see them like him and influence and say, well, he used drugs and he did this or that. Maybe you got to look at the other side of the coin and say, damn, he was this, he was that, and he got on heroin. For somebody asked, how did he die? Allegedly, they found drug paraphernalia, heroin on the scene. Maybe they may say, damn, he died from heroin. I'm not going to mess with that. It took out Michael K, and I liked him. So if it could take him out, it'll damn sure take me out. I'm not going to mess with that.
Maybe what we should do as a society is stop, or maybe not as a society, but that too, but maybe as a business. Because in most places, if you're on heroin and they know you're on heroin, you don't get to work at your job. You don't get to drive a bus if you're on heroin. What these companies should do, these production companies should do, is they should be drugged. They give these people physicals. If you go and if you're going to be a star in a movie, then you often go get a physical before you start production. And they should, if you're on drugs, huh?
Maybe he stops during a production. I don't know. I'm just devil's advocate. Because it's not like a regular job that you
somehow I seriously doubt that you're an addict, and for those 3 months that you're in production that you stop. I doubt it. But maybe he is. But my point is, maybe we should stop supporting these people and simply say, look, we want you to be clean. We're here for you when you're clean. But when you're not going to work in this industry, period. That is just what it is. We're not going to support our artists killing themselves. It's not going to happen. Okay. And other people out there making these ridiculous comparisons, saying addiction's almost like COVID. No, it's not. You can go, a little kid that's 6 years old can walk into a grocery store with their mom, and somebody can breathe on them and they can get COVID and end up in the hospital and die. 6-year-olds are not walking down through the aisles of the grocery store and catching a fentanyl addiction. So just stop that foolishness.
Okay, hold on. Let Moochie go ahead. Get in there. And I like Paperboy's comment. This is an interesting take on that.
Yeah, I like that too. I was going to ask you to highlight that.
Yeah.
With this whole thing, I totally disagree with you. Mel Gibson did get canceled, but they still show his movies. They showed Lethal Weapon for months straight.
They did all three of them.
They showed all of the movies for months at a time. So that I disagree with you. They cancel them for a little while and then they bring them back. So I mean, I really don't agree with the cancel culture like that, because now it's done over tedious things. If you don't like what's being said, then they cancel you. So I mean, I'm not a fan of it. So now we're basically not gonna have our own opinions about things.
No, we can have our own opinions, but my thing is, I don't like the hypocrisy. I'm thinking to myself, I'm saying to myself, like, I don't want to hear people talk about we need to separate the man from his work, when at the same time you have somebody who goes and punches his girlfriend in the head and drags her out of an elevator, and everybody wants to cancel him. He's no less of a football player the next day.
He's a wife beater. What you comparing two different things, man?
We're talking about separating.
No,
we're talking about separating the man from his work. We're talking about separating the man from his work.
Our words. So
no, we're talking about separating the man from his work.
But
if you don't like what he does in his private life, that's one thing. It's one thing to not like what a person does in his private life versus what you don't like what he does in his personal life. If he could be somebody, could be some. And this was true for a long time, and still true. A long time in Hollywood, they had all these stars who were terrible human beings and all kinds of terrible stuff, but they had a whole network, a whole studio system of people that were designed to protect their reputations. We don't have that so much anymore. So you have all this cancel culture.
So you say the same thing about Prince? So we shouldn't listen to his music?
I didn't celebrate Prince when he died.
So what do you say, that we don't listen to Michael Jackson's music? They already canceled.
Didn't celebrate him when he died either.
So this is what I'm gonna say right quick, Larry. Everybody's work is not the same as what they did. You can't compare them all equally. What I mean by not just their work, but what they did on the side, whether they died or not. Like OJ, you know what I'm saying? So you don't say, well, just separate OJ for what he did on the football stuff. What he did off the field supersedes what he did on the field.
What did he do off the field?
Allegedly, it's not been proven in the court of law, which that's a whole separate thing. Like Ray Rice, which you said he didn't go to jail for that, and she actually married him, and they still together to this day, as far as I know. So sometimes it's a little more gray of an area. So allegedly they say OJ may have killed them or whatever. Who knows? Let me just read this comment from my boy Brillo right quick. He said, it's sad. Show him some love. He was a sick man, and it's almost like COVID. He said, I lived it, Larry. And
no,
thanks, Brillo.
It's not like COVID.
Why? Because you didn't.
Here's the thing. Someone has to intentionally start using drugs. Unless somebody grabs you, holds you down, and injects you with an addictive drug, you have to intentionally make the conscious decision to start using drugs. You don't have that option when it comes to COVID. You can just walk down the street, someone breathes on you, and next thing you know, you're sick. It's not the same thing. And that's that attitude that really just disturbs me, where people want to justify and rationalize all of their bad decisions and all of their bad behaviors and try to make these false equivalencies to other things. And it's just wrong, and it's destructive to all communities, but particularly to ours. We are so quick to give each other, a pass for everything. And I know people often say, oh, black people just want to be crabs in a barrel. No, I am quick to lift black people up. But I'm also not going to give you a pass for doing something so obviously destructive, not to just yourself, but also to the community.
Okay. Hold that thought. Nita, you want to jump in there? You got anything you want to add? The Trap Review asks, is an alcoholic bad? And Savannah said addiction is a disease.
It is.
What do you think? You want to?
Like I said, addiction
is a disease. Just like you said, gay people can be generic. I mean, what is it called? What did he say? He called it something.
What?
What you call gayness? You said it's hereditary.
Oh.
Okay. addiction can be hereditary. You can have that gene in you, and it can happen to you. And if you get exposed to the wrong type of thing, like what I'm trying to say to you, Larry, my point is the world is not black and white. There is a lot of gray, and you can't operate in good and bad. There is a balance. Like, say, like in your everyday life, you say you want to be a good person. Good to whose standard? Like, I'm trying to understand whose standard, what moral code or compass are you using? What I'm trying to say is that you cannot be that hard on people where people can't find their way back to a good place in their life. If the way you're painting reality, there's no redemption for nobody. There's nobody to make no growth, no progress.
That's
like you don't understand whether or not like I never even knew he had an addiction. That's what I'm trying to say to you. I didn't even know that. Somebody, Moochie said it, and I was like, oh, I hadn't even heard that. So to me, he was operating as if he wasn't even addicted to anything. I didn't even know that until they told us that. And so what I'm trying to say to you is it's always a balance in life. Like there is a balance. It's not good and evil, because good and evil, the scales are different in everybody's mind.
Yeah, you seem to downplay the gray areas of life a little bit, Larry.
I'm not down. See, I'm not down.
That's not how life is. You know?
I'm not downgrading. I'm not downplaying the gray areas. What I'm saying is I think more often than not, people like to put things in a so-called gray area because they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. I think the fact of the matter is that people need to just simply know. People actually, I don't say people need to know the difference between right and wrong. People know the difference between right and wrong, but they want to do what's wrong anyways because it makes them feel good in the moment, and then later they want to try and shift responsibility to something else. Yes, if you go, you know that addiction is
when you're done.
You know that addiction is. I know addiction is an illness. You know addiction is an illness. Everybody out there knows addiction is an illness. But when you put that meth pipe up to your mouth and you get addicted, you knew what you were in for. When you smoke crack, you know what you're getting into. You know that your ass is going to get addicted because you are ingesting an addictive property into your damn body. You know, if you go out there and people out there saying COVID is the same thing as addiction because it's a sickness that can kill you, that's everything then. Because if you go out there and you have sex with somebody without condom and you get AIDS, you know the risk that you're taking when you do it. And if you get it, you can't sit up there and try and say, oh, it's somebody else's fault. No, you took the risk. You did that.
I'm saying that. But what we're trying to say is that you're highlighting that when you could be highlighting something good about that person's life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want to highlight somebody who died from drugs because that celebrates them. And then the kids start thinking this is the way to go.
Thing. What if that
kids emulate their kids emulate?
That's that is a real thing. That could have been the first time he picked up the pipe and he could have like fell over dead, but that does not erase the 20 years history of his work.
I started off by saying that it didn't. I started off by saying that it does not erase the good works that he did. What I'm saying is that I don't want to celebrate that because young people emulate their favorite stars, their favorite actors, their favorite singers, and if they go out there and they see their favorite rappers, their favorite singers, their favorite, anybody, their favorite writers, whoever, if they see them out there and they're doing drugs and they're getting high, if they start drinking, they want to emulate them and do the same thing because they think that's the same path they should take.
He's not glorifying it though.
Hold on, ladies. Hold that thought for 1 second.
Anything about him and his
nobody knew he was even doing drugs if I didn't speak on it. So he's not glorifying. He talked about
it. You think you were the only one that knew he was doing drugs?
Hold on. Moochie, hold that thought.
Go ahead. I'm gonna mute myself. Go ahead.
You ain't gotta mute. Just hold on. I just want to thank Montana Max for supporting the channel with the super chat. And then I got 2 questions for Larry. Well, 1 question and it's a 2-part question. Anyway, so first of all, most people start using drugs at a young age when you may not have all your decision-making skills, you know, at the best of their ability. Most people don't start using in their 20s or 30s. And then this is the question I want to know as well. And somebody had a good point as well. But the question I want to know is, who says that drugs are bad? According to who? That's a good question. Now, I'm not saying advocating that drugs are good, but we all know some drugs are more harmful than others. And at one point, most of this stuff was legal, but you know, at one point, alcohol was illegal, and somebody said you take the chance of drinking.
Alcohol's bad too.
Exactly, but you drink. Other people
I do
drink.
because I'm not an alcohol because I'm able to maintain myself with alcohol. I can drink and
But
then I
you
can
didn't
stop.
know that you didn't have that ability until you started drinking. Like people that are alcoholics didn't know that they had the alcoholism disease until they had a drink or two and couldn't stop.
That may be true for some people, but there are other people who know that there is a history of alcoholism in their family, and yet they choose to start drinking. I know for me, I have a history of heart disease in my family, so I make sure I maintain my heart health. I'm constantly monitoring it because I know that that's something I should be concerned about because I have a family history of it. There are quite a few people out there who are very aware that there is a history of alcoholism in their family, and they decide that they're going to go out there and drink or do drugs or whatever, and they're going to go ahead and tempt fate and see if they can get around that addiction. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But when you know that there's a history of addiction in your family, you don't tempt fate. You just don't.
So listen.
Okay. And wait, who said drugs are bad? I'm just asking because, like Nita asked,
I mean,
you said who is this moral
the CDC
code?
says drugs are bad. I mean, if you probably look at I'm probably sure there's studies from the FDA. I'm sure there's numerous, academic studies saying that various drugs are bad. I mean if you start talking about various,
we take pharmaceutical drugs.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. If you start talking about different classes of drugs,
and
like for instance,
you can take them irresponsibly too, right?
Right, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. So my point is that if you are talking about certain class of drugs, if you're talking about, opioids, yes, if you take opioids in a controlled environment where you have a prescription for a certain dosage over a certain amount of days, taken over a certain period of hours in during those days, and you maintain that schedule, then you can take those drugs and not become addicted in 9 times out of 10. But if you abuse those drugs and you take them outside of the prescription, then you start talking about using and abusing pharmaceutical drugs. Yes, we know people love pharmaceutical drugs because pharmaceutical drugs apparently are the best and purest thing you can get. However, I will also argue there is absolutely no there is no medical reason for someone to take crack. None.
All right, let Nita get in there. Nita, go ahead. What was you gonna say?
And how am I being disrespectful to black women, Inga, by talking about drugs are bad? You guys are just
don't get into all of that. Don't ignore some of the comments, man. Yeah, they're gonna make you fill that cup up, man.
Nah, this is the last little bit of it.
What I'm trying to say is that I feel like even in a person's art, like even if you look at Michael K. Williams and the people that he's played in his roles, I feel like that might be a little bit more influential, and he didn't play good characters. A lot of his characters, Boardwalk Empire, The Wire, and Lovecraft Country, all veered on things that were very problematic and very harmful and influential, if you will, because it's out there for public consumption. Like I said, I did not know that this man was an addict. And so what I'm trying to figure out and say is that you get influence from everywhere. You get it from the art. We get it from the shit that we see on Power. We get it everywhere. There is no filter nowadays. And so I just feel like you just got to take a breath and just kind of be like, okay, there are influences everywhere, and it's nothing that nobody can do. But I think in someone's death, you cannot just do them like that. Like just because you don't understand the struggle, don't mean that there was not a struggle. And that's
I'm not saying that.
Like,
I never said there wasn't a struggle. All I said was I don't want to celebrate them.
A statement about suicide, and I think you just should leave it right there, because that right there is just not nothing that I don't think we have.
So if he was using, let me ask you this, Larry. So say he was using drugs, but didn't die from the drug use, died from something else, hit by a car, but then they find out he did use drugs. Well, how would that change your face? I mean, not your face. I'm looking at this comment.
I know, right?
Would that change your opinion, rather?
It might change my opinion, but here's the thing. If he was a known drug user, it wouldn't change my opinion. It wouldn't change my opinion either way. Now, it would be different if he had been on drugs and he had gotten clean. And I'm not talking about that he needs to go out there and start apostatizing everything. Oh, look at me, I went and got clean. I don't care if he goes and tells the whole world, or if people are just like, quietly, he went and got clean. He had a drug issue, he got clean. There's a lot of people out there that have drug issues and they get clean and they move on with their life. I have no problem with that. I don't have any problem with people being on drugs and getting clean and moving on. Those are lives, and those are lives with work worth celebrating. When I look at like, what's his name? Robert Downey, what's his name? Michael, what's his dude, the Iron Man dude?
Robert Downey. Yeah,
he right. I want to say Robert Downey Jr. Is it Jr.?
That is him. That's Robert Downey. Yeah.
I was, for some reason, I felt like I was saying the talk show host name. So
Morton, that's Morton Downey.
Right, Morton. Yeah. So today, that dude. Say it again.
Today, then what?
Say it again.
Wait, say it again, Nita. I couldn't hear you either.
No, I was just saying. So we're talking about Robert Downey Jr. and we think that he's made this recovery. But what if we found him dead today? Then what would we say?
And they said they found that in his system.
What would we say?
What would you say? Would you say the same thing?
Yes, I would have a problem with that. Very much so. Yes.
Because somebody in the comments mentioned Philip Hoffman. I'm sorry if I cut you off. The actor Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was
heroin.
He had a heroin addiction and he got clean, and then they found him with that in his body.
Okay. I didn't celebrate their life. I don't celebrate the lives of people like that overdose on drugs. I don't do it.
Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Less Than Zero made me never want to use cocaine. I tell you that much.
That was a fantastic performance.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing. Sucking stick for coke.
Right.
Hold that thought 1 second. Karen Talk, come through with the 20 super chat. Thank you so much, sister. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining the membership. I got a video for you. I know you love the videos. I missed playing a couple videos because I didn't want to break up the conversation. But Karen, I got a little something special for you because you always got something special for me. So I'm going to do a little dance for you. We saw Symphony had a song. I got the dance. Here we go. All right. I had to lighten up the mood for a second. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Well, look. What bottom line is this? Is that if you're out there doing irresponsible things and you end up dying as a consequence of it, I mean, what, I'm supposed to turn around and want to boo-hoo about that stuff? And I mean, there are some things people are just not going to like that I say because I feel differently than a lot of people do. And I know that there's a lot of black folks out there that think that I feel that my ideas and my thoughts and my feelings about certain things in the world are very, very different from theirs. But I also see in the comments, there's a lot of black folks out there that think the same way I do. We are very different in a lot of ways. And yes, I have, some people are saying I don't understand certain things because I didn't grow up in the you know, in the so-called struggle. I just think they don't recognize that there's different types of struggles. Yeah, you're right. I didn't grow up dodging bullets and dipping drug dealers and trying not to join gangs. I didn't grow up like that. No, I did not. You know, I grew up worrying about if I was going to get into the college I wanted to get into. Different set of pressures.
I like what Karen Jones said. You just can't reduce people to only their struggle.
I'm not doing that.
Well, you're not doing that, but it seems as if
you are.
In a way, you kind of, because he was on drugs, you're not going to celebrate the good that he did or celebrate his life. Not to say we need to all get pom-poms, but we're going to give him some flowers for the good he did, and then have a little sympathy and understanding for his struggle. And I think you're not giving a little credit to people get inspired by negative consequences in life. Like, I never wanted to use crack or be alcoholic, because when I would go to the gas stations in the hood or see crackheads, I knew I didn't want to be that. And some people that were doing good and had money in the 80s and driving Cadillacs, and by the time I was driving and doing stuff in the 90s, they were crackheads. Like, they were the dope dealers and stuff, but then they ended up being the users and was broke. And I'd be like, wow, I used to look up to this dude, and now he broke and he need money from me. I'm only 16, 17. Like, I ain't never gonna use coke. I ain't gonna never use crack. And so that was a positive influence from a negative action. Like, Davina will probably never use crack because she sees what happened with her mom. And we saw she the only one that wanted to use a condom. Why? Because she raising the kid earlier than she want to. So she don't want no kids. So, you know what I mean? Like, she got a positive outcome from a negative situation. Sometimes we learn from other people's mistakes too. So I
totally get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I fully recognize and have seen time and time and time again how young, influential people, you know, people who are easily influenced, or not even just easily, people who are just they're able to be influenced. Young people, they come and they see things that people have, and like, for instance, you see the guys in the Cadillacs, you see the guys in the BMWs, and you want to be like them. You want to do what they do. And if you see them out in the corner smoking weed and doing drugs, you're going to think like, oh shit, that's what I need to do so I can get my fancy Cadillac, or I can get my BMW, and I can get that hot ass girl with the long hair and the pretty skin and everything else. I want to be able to have that. And if that's what he's doing, that's what I need to do. Well, I don't want to celebrate those things. I don't want to celebrate that. And these young people are out there thinking, oh, man, these people are so creative. They're out there coming up with these crazy ideas for songs, and they're able to unleash their inner emotions so that they can become these fantastic actors. And if that's the way they do it, by doing drugs, if these drugs are allowing them to let go of all of their hesitation and all of their fears, and they can go out there and become these fantastic artists, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to celebrate that and promote that and push that out there, because kids see that and that's what they do. So for me, people that die of drug overdoses, it's like, I'm sad that they died. They were fantastic actors, and now I'm going to move on.
All right, ladies, you all got anything you want to add to this before we move on?
I felt like at the end of the day, everybody was saying how good of an actor he was. I don't. Like, I just felt like when I said that, when Variety put the post out there, they didn't say anything about drugs. That was the New York Post that I heard that from. I didn't even, like I said.
And that's a racist paper, I might add.
When I saw it, it was on TMZ.
About that,
and then it was on CNN.
You would know before I would.
I still don't feel like nobody is celebrating that. Like, when somebody dies, they're like, how did they die? How did they die? Like, I watch a panel on the Grapevine, and Aisha Times, she passed away, and the first thing I said, oh my gosh, she was so influential, and she was so smart and beautiful and young. How the hell did she die? And that was my first question. And I mean, I think it's normal for people to want to know how somebody passed away and transitioned. And I don't feel like I was entitled to it, but I guess people think that things are salacious and they'll put it out there like that. And of course, they will do that. But with Aisha Khan, she actually had an asthma attack and died. And there, I mean, I don't really hear that too often. I hear drug addiction all the time, but like I said, I don't feel like I knew anything about Michael Williams about being addicted to anything. That was not anything that was hindering his life. Like I felt like he lived a full life and he was able to give his contributions and do all of the acting roles and embody them. And I just feel like you just cannot just sweep that under the rug. And I feel like that's what you're doing. You're saying you don't want to celebrate it, but you don't want to celebrate the good. So when you say you don't want to celebrate his addiction and you don't want to mourn him, then that's what you're saying. You're saying it, but you're not saying it. You're double talking.
That's not what I feel that I'm saying. But if you feel that's what I'm saying, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you feeling that's what I'm saying, because I am saying that. And if that is what you're taking from it, then I'll accept that.
Yeah. Savage Dan, thanks for the support to the channel. Moochie.
And people out there saying I grew up in a bubble. I didn't grow up in a bubble. I just have, I just don't. This is the thing. I'm a black man in America just like everyone else. And just like every other black man in America, I don't get to have a bunch of excuses that I can give the world and succeed. I don't get to. I get to go out into the world with my black skin every day, just like every other black man. And so, no, our people can't afford a bunch of excuses. I can't go and tell black men, oh, just go ahead and become drug addicts and then say it's an addiction and everybody's going to be okay. They don't care if it's an addiction when it comes to you. They don't care. So don't get addicted, period. I know that seems black and white. Maybe it is. Don't use drugs. Here's an easy way not to get addicted to drugs. Don't use drugs, period.
Don't use drugs, but you still can not really disrespect somebody who has lost his life.
I didn't disrespect anybody by saying I don't want to celebrate
like that when DMX.
I wasn't disrespectful at all.
Okay.
I said that the guy's a talented actor, but I don't think we should celebrate that. We shouldn't celebrate the all of this because of the way he died of a drug addiction, because I see the way that young people are influenced by that. We had generations of people growing up looking at Jimi Hendrix smoking weed, thinking, oh, Jimi Hendrix smoking weed, he's doing heroin. I need to free my mind. I need to let it all go. And there was a whole generation that came up following behind that. How Jimi Hendrix died? Drug overdose.
But you give more credit to Jimi Hendrix, or maybe because they were coming back from the war and they was addicted to morphine and those drugs in Vietnam.
All of that. Probably a little bit of all of that.
Okay.
But my point is that the people that have a large influence over their fans and society as a whole, when they die of something horrible like that, something self-inflicted, I'm simply not going to celebrate it.
Okay. LSW said, do you believe in grace and mercy?
For white people.
You know what, Kobe 3 James said, no kids are looking up drug overdoses. That's right. That's part of my point. They're not looking up drug overdoses. They're looking up and they're paying attention to the way they live their lives. And when they live their lives and they see them out there doing those drugs, they see them out there high and doing all this great work, they're emulating their lives. And what happens is they then in turn start using drugs, and they go out there and then they get addicted and then they also die. And so, yes, if they did do their research and they saw the overdoses, maybe they wouldn't emulate their lives, but they don't research drug overdoses. They just research the people that they like.
Right. Okay. He said looking up too, but I get what you're saying. They don't do that as well. But I look at it as what you're saying. I see and I get it. But I don't think, in my opinion, you're giving enough credit to people getting positive influence from negative actions. Like they may see him overdosed and be like, I'm never going to do that because he was one of my favorites and he OD'd on heroin. If they had a party and somebody offer him heroin, they may say no.
They might. They might, but I'm not going to celebrate. I'm not going to celebrate their body of work after that. When they die of heroin, it's like I'm not going to. If I'm not I liked R. Kelly's music. I'm not celebrating R. Kelly's music. I don't even listen to his music anymore. I'm not going to. I'm not. When you do something horrible like that, I'm not going to celebrate you.
But that's like a different. Let's relate it to sports. That's a different on the field penalty. Like he was accused of molesting and raping, statutory raping young women versus somebody that did something to themselves.
Right, but his music wasn't any less. His music wasn't any less great, but I don't celebrate those lives of people who do stuff like that because that's a decision that I made. I have consequences for my actions. People need to have consequences for theirs. And sometimes it's upsetting. Like I would love, I love Mel Gibson movies. I'm not watching one of them. I don't watch his movies anymore. I used to like R. Kelly's music. I'm not listening to his music anymore.
But if you listen to R. Kelly, you're going to think about him abusing and molesting women. That's different. Whereas if I watch a Michael K. movie, I'm going to be thinking, damn, this dude died over overdose at a young age, like gone too soon. I'm not going to have a feeling of him like a molester or a murderer or a killer. Moochie, what you think?
I already said what I said. I don't agree with him. I feel like he's mixing apples and oranges, and it's very disrespectful how he said it. And that's why I was offended. I just feel like it's disrespectful. Like I just disagree with him. That's all. I really don't have nothing else to say. And all I could do is we could agree to disagree. I have no animosity towards him or anything like that. That's his opinion. He has a right to that.
Okay, we about to move on. Before we do, Nita, you got something you want to add before we move on, Nita?
No, I was saying there's people in the chat that agree with him, and that's fine. But what I'm trying to tell people, a lot of people have not done the inner work. Everybody doesn't come out perfect. Everybody doesn't. People have been traumatized. People have gone through things, and they have to work those things out. And in therapy, you understand grace and mercy, which SLW talked about earlier today, is that you have to be able to forgive yourself. You make mistakes. You're not perfect. There is no perfect person, not even you, Lawrence Dorch. You're not perfect. We are
never claimed to be.
And you make mistakes, and you have to be able to forgive yourself.
And I acknowledge them.
Other people have to be able to forgive you too. And just because you do one bad thing does not erase all of the good that you've done. And that's just it. And that's just
first of all, I want to say too, don't trip, I said it. I just want to say,
what is a tune-up?
I'm not going to say it because I don't want to be that person right now, but I will say what you just wrote in there was so far below the belt that I'm not even going to respond to it, because to do so would be to disrespect Jay's channel the things that I was just about to say to you. Because there are some things that you could say that are fine. There are other things that are just below the belt, and you went there. And I'm going to leave it be, but I'm just going to tell you right now, keep your damn name out my mouth, out your mouth. Keep my name out your comments in the comment section too if you're going to spew craziness like that. So people can look at what I say as disrespectful. I just don't sugarcoat stuff. That's just what it is. I pride myself and I live my life in such a way that I'm honest with people. Sometimes honesty hurts. People don't like honesty often. It is what it is. I'm smacked with honesty every single day from people in my life, and I feel like it's disrespectful to be anything less. So people don't like it. That's cool. I get it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. No big deal.
All right. Well, I appreciate all of you guys' input on talking about that. I hope we all got, what we wanted to say out there. And I appreciate the 150 plus people watching right now. That was the Michael K. Williams unfortunate, untimely passing. That's our thoughts on that. You can agree, disagree, agree to disagree, all of the above. But we keep it real. We try to be respectful. Some people may feel it was disrespectful. Some people may feel it was or wasn't. I mean, it is what it is. But for the most part, I will say RIP to the brother. I'm like Nita. I didn't know he was dealing with an addiction at all. And it's unfortunate that 54 years old, he's gone, whatever the case may be. Still not that old. I know you young people in your 20s or younger think that's an old person. It's not. Right. He could at least had another 20, 30 good years left. Right. Shoot, I'm going to be 43 September 17th. So I'm getting up there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm be 43 years old. Yeah.
You a Virgo?
Yep, Virgo. Whatever that may mean or not mean.
No, I just like them.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's why we get along so well.
Yes.
All right.
I did want to say one thing right quick. And this is sort of just addressing, some of the women in the comment section and to a lesser extent the women on the panel. But I know a lot of people seem to think that I am at times disrespectful to women. And I am not. And I'm going to explain to you that I don't see myself as disrespectful to women because I hold women to the exact same standard that I hold men. And I speak about women in the same vein that I speak about men. And I think to do anything less is disrespectful. I think to set women aside as if they are less than and they need to be coddled and they can't be spoken to in the same way about the same things, I think is disrespectful. And I think people get mad because when I speak about women, I don't treat them as if they're anything else. I don't think of them as, oh, let me go ahead and let me put my padded gloves on so I can throw little pity pat punches. No, if I see a woman acting crazy, I'm gonna throw a blow just like I would if I was throwing one at a man. And I say that metaphorically. I'm not talking about hitting anybody, male or female. I'm talking about the way that I speak to women, the way that I talk about women, the way that I talk about men, the way that I'm talking, in general. It's the same across the board. The same. And I know some people don't like that. And when they hear me say things about men, there's nothing said. Nothing. And then when I say those same things about women, all of a sudden I'm being disrespectful. It's not disrespectful. In fact, anything less than that would be disrespectful.
Okay. I can see where you're coming from with that. But somebody, and I know it's hard to please everyone, and I already know you don't have to respond to this, but Don't Trip said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. People say that to me sometimes as well, so.
I have no words for her. She's a joke.
All right.
I saw the stuff that she put. It's one thing. It's one thing to disagree with someone. It's something else to put something that's so far below the belt and then to turn around and expect to be respected. No, you don't get to be respected after you've hit so far below the belt with what she typed. I'm not. So no, she's a joke. I don't really no.
Okay, I missed some of the comments. The one comment I saw, I didn't understand it, but we don't have to address that. Happy birthday to Montana Max.
Put in there.
Okay. Montana Max said it's his birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
And I appreciate you also supporting the channel earlier. I got a video for you. Hold on. This is what Poppy gonna have to go through. I got some leaked footage of Poppy getting attacked at the bodega. And he actually can handle his business. Let's take a look. They thought Poppy was a joke. That's why he put in that work on their ass. They had to come harder. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that like, subscribe, bang that bell, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.